My name is Sophie. I'm 27 years old, and a few months ago, I was sitting on a flight to Scotland while my mom sent me 31 text messages, begging, threatening, and guilt-tripping me to cancel everything and come home. I went anyway. To understand why those messages hit me so hard and why I still chose to keep going, you need some background. I grew up in the United States, in a small-ish town where most people are born, grow up, and then move maybe 30 minutes away at most. My parents bought their house in the 90s and never left. My mom's entire world is that house, her church, her coworkers, and whatever drama is going on in the family group chat. From the outside, she looks like a dedicated mom. She shows up to school events, she posts about her kids on Facebook, she bakes for holidays. But living with her is a very different story. She's controlling. Not in the obvious you're grounded forever way, but in a suffocating, emotional way. When I was a kid, if I wanted to go to a friend's house, she would interrogate me. Who's going to be there? Are their parents home? What exactly are you doing? When will you be back? If I was even 10 minutes late, she'd text me 10 times and call 3 more. At first I thought she was just a worried mom, but as I got older, I realized it went way beyond that. In high school, she went through my phone to keep me safe. In college, she insisted I live at home and commute because dorms are dangerous and you're not ready to be on your own. Anytime I wanted something that meant being more independent, an overnight trip with friends, a leadership position that required late meetings, even just a job with evening shifts, she'd find some reason it was not a good idea and then cry until I backed down. Crying was her favorite weapon. If I pushed back, she'd say things like, "After everything I've done for you, this is how you treat me? If something happens to you, I'll never forgive myself. You don't understand, I just love you more than you'll ever know." It was incredibly hard to argue with that as a teenager. My dad was physically present but emotionally checked out. His go-to line was, "Just keep the peace, Sophie. You know how your mom is," which really meant, let her have her way so I don't have to deal with an argument. So I became the good daughter who didn't cause too much trouble. I got good grades, I didn't drink or party, I stayed home most nights. I went to a local college and got a degree in something safe because my mom said my original dream art and design was not practical. After graduation, I started working a regular 9-to-5 office job. It was fine. The pay was okay, the work was boring, but it was stable. My mom liked that it was close to home. She called me every day during my lunch break and expected long, detailed update. Meanwhile, I was restless. I followed a bunch of travel accounts on Instagram, watched YouTube videos about people moving abroad, read blogs about expat life. Scotland, especially, fascinated me. The history, the landscape, the cities that were big, without feeling overwhelming. Edinburgh and Glasgow looked like places I could actually belong. For a long time, it was just a daydream. Then, about a year and a half ago, my company downsized. I didn't lose my job, but things got shaky, and it forced me to think about what I actually wanted from my life. Around that same time, I saw a posting for a 2-year graduate program in Scotland that offered a reasonably priced master's degree, the option to work part-time time, and an international student support system. Out of curiosity, I applied. I didn't tell my parents. I didn't tell anyone at first. I sent my transcripts, wrote an essay, did everything quietly at night after my mom had gone to bed. A few months later, I got an email. "Congratulations! We are pleased to offer you a place." I read that line over and over, half convinced I was dreaming. My scholarship from undergrad hadn't left me with too much debt. I'd been saving a bit, and if I budgeted carefully, it would actually be possible. Not easy, but possible. The idea of living in Scotland, of having my own space, my own life, far away from my mom's constant monitoring, lit up something in me that I hadn't felt in years. Of course, at some point, I had to tell my parents. I tried to be smart about it. I waited until I had the acceptance letter. I had run some basic numbers. I had talked to the program coordinator about visas and housing. One Sunday dinner, I took a deep breath and said, "I need to tell you something." My mom immediately went to worst-case scenario. "Are you pregnant? Are you sick? Did you lose your job?" I said, "No, I got accepted into a master's program in Scotland. It's a good school. It's a 2-year program. I want to go." The silence at that table was deafening. My dad blinked a few times and said, "Scotland? Like, in Europe?" My mom's face went white, then red. "You're joking," she said. "You can't be serious." I showed them the email, the brochures, the information packet I'd printed. I explained how the program worked, how the visa worked, that I could work part-time there, that I'd looked at the costs. My mom barely glanced at any of it. She went straight into meltdown mode. "You can't move to another country. That's insane. You don't know anyone there. What if something happens to you? What if you get sick? What if you get trafficked? I've seen stories, Sophie." I tried to keep my voice calm. "Mom, thousands of international students do this every year. The university has housing. They have support staff. This is a really good opportunity." She started crying, like full-on, loud sobs. Why isn't here good enough for you? Why do you want to run away from your family? Do you hate us that much? My dad muttered something about, maybe start with something closer, like another state. But he didn't really take a position. As usual, he just kind of watched my mom unravel and hoped it would resolve itself. For weeks after that, every conversation in our house turned into her listing horrible things that could happen to me abroad, her accusing me of abandoning her, her begging me to stay just one more year. She tried everything. Guilt. I sacrificed my whole life for you. Fear. You don't know how dangerous it is out there. Money. We can help you find something here instead. It got to the point where I stopped bringing it up at all, because every time I did, we ended up in a screaming match, or she'd shut herself in her room and cry for hours. Meanwhile, the clock was ticking. I accepted the spot in the program. I applied for my visa. I booked my plane ticket from the US to Edinburgh, with a layover, but still. No turning back without losing thousands of dollars. I didn't tell her about the plane ticket until it was paid for and confirmed. When I finally said, my flight is on date, I'm going, she absolutely lost it. She said, I won't let you do this. You'll regret it. You're making the biggest mistake of your life. I said, Mom, I'm 27. I love you, but this is my decision. I'm going. She didn't speak to me for 3 days. The morning of my flight, she was weirdly calm. She drove me to the airport in total silence. No music, no small talk. Just this thick, heavy tension between us. When we got to drop off, she parked the car and finally spoke. You can still change your mind, she said. You don't have to do this. I do, I said. She hugged me, stiff and shaking, and whispered, if you get on that plane and leave me, don't expect anything to be the same when you come back. I didn't really know what that meant, but I didn't have time to unpack it. I had security to get through, a bag to check, a long trip ahead. I took my carry-on, waved one last time, and walked into the terminal. I thought the worst part was over. I was wrong. The worst part was reading 31 messages from my mom, one after another, while I was already on my way to Scotland. By the time I got to my gate, my hands were shaking. Leaving home is emotional under the best circumstances. Leaving home when your mom has basically told you that you're abandoning her and threatened that nothing will be the same when you come back feels like peeling your own skin off. I boarded my connecting flight, found my seat, stuffed my backpack under the chair, and tried to focus on simple things. Passport, check. Phone, check. Headphones, check. Documents, check. I put my phone in airplane mode, like you're supposed to, but left Wi-Fi on, so I could listen to downloaded music, and maybe use the in-light Wi-Fi later if needed. As people were still boarding and finding their seats, I got the first text from Mom. You can still get off the plane. Just tell them you're sick. They will let you off. I stared at it, took a breath, locked my phone, and put it face down on my lap. I thought, okay, she's having a hard time. Just don't engage. A minute later, another buzz. I'm begging you, Sophie, please, don't do this. Then another. I had a dream last night. Something terrible happened to you. This is a sign. You have to listen. I closed my eyes and leaned my head back. The logical part of my brain knew this was classic manipulation. The emotional part of my brain, the one she had trained for years, felt guilty anyway. As the flight crew did the safety demo, my phone kept buzzing. Think about your father. What if he has a heart attack from the stress? Your grandparents will be devastated. You're throwing your life away for some fantasy. Buzz, buzz, buzz. We took off. The city got smaller beneath us. I felt my stomach drop, partly from the plane and partly from the reality that I was finally, physically leaving. At cruising altitude, the cabin lights dimmed. People pulled out books, laptops, blankets. I put my headphones in, but my brain wouldn't let me relax. Every time my phone vibrated, my heart jumped. After about 20 minutes of this, I couldn't take the buzzing anymore. I flipped the phone over and unlocked it. That's when I saw the number in the corner. 31 unread messages. All from my mom. My chest got tight. I scrolled up and started reading. Some were pleading. Please, Sophie. I'm on my knees. I can't stop crying. I feel sick. If you love me at all, you will get off that plane and come home. Some were angry. You are selfish and ungrateful. After everything I've done for you, this is how you repay me? You're throwing away your family for strangers. Some were manipulative in that very specific way. Only she knows how to be. I talked to Pastor Dan. He says this is the devil tempting you away from your family. If something bad happens to you over there, I won't survive it. Do you want that on your conscience? I told everyone at church you were staying. How am I supposed to explain this? There was one that really got under my skin. If you step off that plane in Scotland, you're choosing a foreign country over your own mother. Remember that. And one that was just cold. When you realize how big a mistake this is, don't expect us to fix it for you. I could feel my face getting hot. My eyes stung. The woman next to me glanced over, noticed my expression, and asked softly, Hey, are you okay? I forced a small smile. Just complicated family stuff. She nodded like she understood. Long flight, she said. Try to get some rest if you can. I wanted to throw my phone into the airplane toilet. Instead, I put it on my tray table and just stared at the messages for a while. Every text was like a perfect summary of my entire life with my mom. Love, but with strings attached. Fear, dressed up as protection. Control, disguised as concern. She wasn't saying, "I'm scared because I love you and this is new for me." She was saying, "If you don't do what I want, I will make you feel like a monster." I scrolled back through some older conversations. Ones where I had tried to set small boundaries. I can't talk on the phone every single day. I'm an adult. I don't have to tell you where I am 24/7. Her responses were always the same pattern. Wow. I guess I'm just the worst mother in the world. Fine, I'll stop caring. One day you'll have kids, and then you'll understand how wrong you are. Sitting there, in the dark cabin, with strangers breathing softly around me and the engine humming, I had a moment of terrifying clarity. If I turned around now, if I texted her, "Okay, I'll come home," this would never end. I'd never move out of state, let alone out of the country. I'd never take a job she didn't approve of. I'd never be allowed to have a life that wasn't orbiting around her emotions. My entire 20s had already slipped away in a sort of half-life where I was technically an adult, but still treated like a child. If I gave in now, my 30s would be the same. The panic rose anyway. My brain started bargaining. Maybe you can go just for a semester and then come back. Maybe you can land, show her you're safe over video chat, then fly home early. Maybe you're being dramatic. Maybe it is too dangerous. Then I thought about the alternative. Staying in the same town, same job I didn't care about, same routines, same daily emotional roller coaster whenever my mom felt insecure about something. I opened the text reply box. For about a minute, my thumbs hovered over the screen. I could type, "Okay, I'm coming back." I could end this tension, make her stop crying, and slip back into the old pattern where she controlled me and called it love. Or I could finally break it. My heart was pounding. I locked the phone without replying and put it back in airplane mode. Wi-Fi off this time. I told myself, out loud, so quietly no one could hear, "I'm going to Scotland. I'm not turning around." Then I sat there in the dark, shaking, and let myself cry silently into the cheap airline pillow. I didn't sleep much on that flight. I kept imagining worst-case scenarios. My mom cutting me off completely. My dad taking her side and never speaking to me again. Going through some emergency abroad with no support. But mixed into that was something else. A tiny, stubborn sense of relief. For the first time, her text didn't decide what I was going to do. I did. When we started our descent into Edinburgh, my phone remained off. I didn't turn it on again until I was through passport control, past baggage claim, standing alone with my suitcases in a foreign airport that, for the first time, felt like my choice. I knew those messages would still be there, waiting. I just didn't know yet what kind of fallout was coming when I finally read the last ones and when I finally answered. The automatic doors at Edinburgh Airport slid open, and I stepped out into gray skies, cool air, and the unfamiliar accents of taxi drivers calling out to passengers. For a moment, it didn't feel real. After months of planning and weeks of emotional warfare at home, I was actually in Scotland. I found a bench just outside the terminal, set my suitcases down, and finally turned my phone back on. It took a solid minute to catch up. Notifications flooded in. Missed calls from mom, a couple from dad, a few from my aunt, the supposedly innocent "how was your flight" from a coworker, and, of course, more texts from my mom. The last one she'd sent, hours earlier, while I was still somewhere over the Atlantic, said, "If you land in Scotland and you still don't turn back, don't expect me to be your mother anymore." Seeing that in writing hit me like a punch to the gut. For a second, I literally couldn't breathe. I scrolled up. After the flurry of 31 messages I'd seen on the plane, she'd continued, "I can't believe you're doing this to me. Everyone is asking where you are. What am I supposed to tell them? If anything happens, remember I warned you." Then the nuclear one again. "You are choosing a foreign country over your family, over your own mother." I sat there on that bench, in a country I'd never set foot in before, with my whole life in 2 suitcases, and realized I was at a fork in the road. Option 1, apologize, beg for forgiveness, promise to come home after the first semester, let her drag me back with guilt and threats. Option 2, accept that she might actually disown me over this and still choose my own life. Neither option felt good. One just felt honest. I opened a new message and typed slowly. "I've landed safely. I understand you're upset. I'm not coming back. I'll text you when I'm settled in my housing." I hovered over send for a few seconds, then hit it before I could chicken out. The delivered indicator popped up, no reply. I put my phone away, got a taxi to the university housing office, checked in, got my keys, and dragged my suitcases up to the tiny room that was going to be my home for the next year. It was small and plain, single bed, desk, wardrobe, a window with a view of a gray stone building and a sliver of sky. It was also completely mine. No one had gone through my drawers. No one had straightened up my things. No one could knock on the door and demand to see my phone. I sat on the bed and just breathed. Later that evening, after I'd unpacked a few essentials and showered, I checked my phone again. Still no reply from my mom. There was one message from my dad. "Let us know you're safe. Your mother is very upset." I stared at it. Not, "I'm worried about you." Not, "Are you okay?" Just a comment about her emotional state. I wrote back, "I am safe. The flight was fine. I'm in my room now. I'll start orientation next week." He replied with a thumbs up emoji. That was it. The first week in Scotland was overwhelming in a lot of ways. I got lost 3 times trying to find the main campus building. I couldn't understand some accents at first. I had to open a local bank account, get a SIM card, figure out the bus system, and deal with jet lag while meeting classmates from all over the world. But in between the stress and confusion, there were these bright moments. Walking down a cobblestone street and realizing I lived here now, grabbing coffee with another international student who understood exactly what it felt like to leave home, sitting by the river with a cheap grocery store sandwich and thinking, I did this. I actually did this. Back home, my mom finally broke her silence after about a week. Her first text, "So I guess you're really staying." Then, "People keep asking about you. I don't know what to tell them." Then, "I hope you're happy." There was no "How are you?" No, "I'm glad you landed safely." No, "Tell me about your classes." Just passive-aggressive resentment. At that point, I made a decision. I would respond, but I would stop feeding the drama. When she sent something guilt-trippy like, "I cried myself to sleep again. I can't stop picturing you alone over there," I replied with, "I'm sorry you're having a hard time. I'm safe and things are going okay." When she wrote, "If something happens to you, remember I told you not to go," I replied, "Nothing has happened to me. I'm handling things. If you want to hear about my life here, I'm happy to share." Sometimes she wouldn't respond at all. Other times, she'd send one-word answers like, "Fine." Video calls were tricky. The first couple of times we tried, she spent most of the call crying or saying how empty the house felt. If I tried to talk about the cool things I'd seen or the people I'd met, she'd say, "Must be nice," in this bitter tone that made me feel guilty for being happy. So I limited calls to once every week or two and kept them short. If she started spiraling, I'd say, "I have to go to class," or "I need to make dinner," and end the call. It wasn't perfect, but for the first time in my life, I had space. I walked to class alone, drank tea alone in my room, joined a student society without asking for anyone's permission. I made friends who knew me as Sophie from the States, not Sophie the good daughter who never leaves home. A few months in, my dad called me on his own, without my mom. He said awkwardly, "How's Scotland?" I told him about the weather, the classes, the city. He listened quietly. After a while, he said, "Your mom's not handling this well, but I can see you're doing okay. I'm glad you went if it's what you wanted." It wasn't a grand apology, but it was something. Back home, my mom still tells people I ran away and that she prays every day that I'll come back. Sometimes relatives text me saying, "Your mom misses you so much. Maybe you should visit soon." I do miss them, sometimes. I miss the holidays, the familiarity, the feeling of having a family house to go back to. But then I remember the 31 texts on that flight, the threat that she wouldn't be my mother anymore if I got off that plane, the years of guilt and manipulation before that, and I realized that what I really miss is the idea of family, not the way it actually was. I plan to visit home eventually for a short trip, on my own terms. I'm not going to rush back because she demands it. I'm not giving up this life. I've started building just to make her feel in control again. Sometimes I wonder if I was too harsh, if I should have compromised more, if moving to another country was an overreaction to a controlling mom. Other times, I walk across a bridge at sunset, or sit in a cozy cafe with friends from 3 different continents, or just lie in my tiny room listening to the rain on the window, and I feel this quiet certainty. For the first time in my life, I chose myself. So what do you think? Was I wrong for getting on that flight to Scotland and ignoring 31 texts from my mom begging me to cancel and come home? Should I have stayed in my hometown to keep the peace? Or was going anyway the only way to finally break free from her control? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoy stories like this, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more Reddit-style family drama and moving abroad stories.